Mita Kolapi. I will now tell you the history of my people, the Lakota, a branch of the Great Sioux Nation. The Washichu, the white man, claimed that they discovered America. That is not so. We, the Red People Nation, were already here and have always been here on this great turtle island. The Sioux Nation once lived in the valleys of the Carolinas before they moved north to the Great Lakes area for more plentiful and bigger meat. When coming to this area, they met new and strong tribes that became their enemies. By that time, they had organized Ocheti Shakowin, or the Seven Council Fires. The intertribal wars went on for many, many years, and it was around 1640 that they first made contact with the white man and their fierce weapon, massacre, or holy iron. The Chippewa had already been introduced to the fire stick, and with that powerful weapon, pushed the Sioux people to the west and out of their rowing ground. That war went on for more than 100 years. As a matter of fact, the white people became involved and tried to stop that war. But the war went on in other locations, distant from the black robes of the Washichu, who seemed to interfere in everything. In the early 1700s, a group of French soldiers had gotten lost in the great forest of the Great Lakes area, and by chance met up with Tioshkate, a Midiwakantawan Sioux warrior, who escorted them to safety in the Montreal area of the grandmotherland, Canada. As a reward, great shows were put on for him, but Tioshkate had his own show as well. He sat down on a hide, taking from a bundle on his back 22 arrows, saying that each arrow represented a band of his nation.
Please help us with fire sticks so we can protect our families against the Chippewas and also destroy all enemies of our French brothers.
A people without history is like wind to the buffalo grass, man afraid of his horses.
Out of one branch, the Wapekuta of the Great Sioux Nation, the Titangwa, emerged. They camped in a village with the Assiniboine, but a fight ensued between two young chiefs, over a woman no less, and one of them took a handful of dust and threw it into the face of the other, who in turn responded by calling the other one Oglala, meaning dust scatter. Instead of spilling blood on the campground, the dust scatter called for his Tioshpaye, his extended family, to make up camp for themselves, and they moved out. With more and more aggression from the better armed Chippewa, the Titangwa moved to the south. The Oglala made their camp around the Pipestone Quarry, their cousins the Tichangu a little farther to the east, on the Blue Earth.
Long ago, when the world was young, the fullness of time had come to the grassroots native peoples. The earth was ample with abundance and plentiful to every man and household. The ancestors were caught up in prolonged large gatherings of social events. At that time there was much occurrences of celebrated feasting and honoring with the land. The Great Spirit sent messages to redeem themselves to the law of the universe, that which is to live a respectful and humble way of life. The rituals of Thanksgiving had all but been forgotten. The deception of moral law had reached its height. The Great Spirit frowned and dispelled darkness that caused continuous hard rain in the lands of the rising and setting suns. The cleansing began. The people fled to the hills to escape from the rising water. The water continued to rise, all the people being destroyed from the earth. While the people were drowning, one beautiful maiden had climbed to a cliff and lifted her arms to the sky and asked the Great Spirit to have mercy for her people, to take pity on her and save her. As she prayed, a big bald eagle swooped down so that she could catch hold on its feet. The powerful eagle carried the maiden away over the flooded lands to the Black Hills. He landed on a majestic mountain on top of a great tree on a high cliff above the water. Up on this cliff, as a massive eagle sheltered the maiden with his wings from the natural elements of rain and wind, he had turned into a young warrior. In this manner, the great Lakota nation was born. The father, War Eagle Man, and the maiden had become parents to twins. So began a tribe that is relentless and brave. When the water went down, the location where it had trained, the congealed, hardened flesh and blood of all the ancestors that were drowned and destroyed from the earth was turned into red pipestone. That pipestone was created into symbols of peace and is smoked only at times of honor or despair. The eagle feather is worn occasionally at honorable social events on the head of Lakota men. The plumage worn by women who have been given official spirit names for protection of their personal endeavors throughout their lifetime. The wise old grandparents tell of the oldest legends and the connection to very unusual ancestors. So we are all related. Mitakuye Oyasi, the emergence of the Lakota nation.
Reading creation stories from among different tribes, I learned that we had originated from this continent, and there was no crossing over the Bering Strait, according to our creation stories. And almost all the tribes' creation stories will say that they came from, this North American continent. And as anthropology students, the people crossing over the Bering Strait is just a theory and it's not proved. Several years back, I know that there were anthropologists or archaeologists doing research on the Yukon River. One was looking for artifacts to support the people being here. The other looking for evidence to support that the native people of North America crossed the Bering Strait. I didn't keep up with what the results were, but I don't think that they've come to any conclusion yet. But in oral history and in creation stories, the Lakota people claim to have originated from this area, and the area that would be the Black Hills. That's about all I know about those creation stories. I don't have anything that any documents that prove any of that information, but oral history I think is proof enough for me and for the majority of Lakota people and other native people. I think they rely heavily on their own facts and their own stories, their own legacies.
At that time, the Teton-Wan had no horses. They had to use their camp dogs as burden carriers when they moved camp. To the west, they had heard of a big river and new land with huge herds of the humpbacks, the big meat called pete or buffalo. But there was an obstacle before reaching the big meat and even the muddy river. There were several camps of Palani or Arikara, warriors armed with shining spear points made of iron, traded from the white man. Outside their mud houses was a big, strange animal feeding on grass. Sometimes they saw man sitting on top of this mysterious dog, or Shunkawakhan.
A horse in a Lakota is the best friend. The Spaniards brought the horses up way back when. They get the horses from them. Why they call it best friend is a war party, not scouts. They ride over the hill and they ride horses, and then if something ahead, the horses pick up first. They wash the ears. So they come around, go around there, and sure enough, there's something. That's how they use the horses. If you see a horse there, here's something right away. You watch the ears. Just perk up and just start, then there's something ahead. That's how the Lakota knew that there's an enemy or whatever ahead. So they stop and go around.
The camp of the Oglala was the first to observe that the great camps of Arikara had caught the disease that killed off at least 3/4 of their tribe, which had consisted of about 20,000 people. The smell of sickness hung heavily on the banks of the Big Muddy, and not before the Arikara fled to the north did they dare make a move. Eventually, the Titangwan made their move across the Muddy River and onto the mixed grasses on the west side of the Missouri River, just above Crow Creek. The Sichangu followed the White River to the south. The camps of the Oglala followed Sicha, or Bad River, towards Matopaha, hills like a bear, or Bear Butte, as they call it now. Bear Butte was known as Grizzly Hills to the Titangwan and Teaching Hills to the Cheyenne. The Cheyenne were the only tribe that the Lakota were on friendly terms with.
This is Bear Butte. The long time ago, the natives used Bear Butte as a place to pray. As you can see, the mountain here, it's way up, and we use it to be closer to the gods and to really have the connection with the higher power, and to be closer to, for our prayers to be heard. And also, it was used as a lookout to see all around, and then today it's been used as a ceremonial place where we come to pray and to really fast. It's used for fasting, and also it's a place to come and find serenity within yourself. And today a lot of people use Bear Butte. All cultures, all denominations, people from all over the world today use Bear Butte. They come up and have that experience, the spiritual experience that's here. And only way I could really explain it is if you come to Bear Butte yourself and really see it, then the power within the mountain. And in our culture, we really use the mountains to go for healing. It's a place for healing to ourselves and for the people. I'll come here if somebody's sick in my family. I'll come here and bring prayers and really let it all go here, because the person is sick and I'm a well person, so I could do that, to be able to really, bring the prayers here and let it go. So that's what it's basically used for. And a long time ago, the natives used this place as a place to live and survive. There was a lot of buffalo here at one time, and we have a lake right here, and the water is here. Everything was right here, so it was a place for, place to survive, and that's what it was a long time ago.
With scouts out in the 4 sacred directions, only one Blegleshka, the spotted eagle, watched the trail of the traveling people. A beautiful uprise on the open plain marked that they had reached the butte where, in the coming years, the different bands of Titangwan would meet for summer camps. Life in the plains proved hard and dangerous for the newcomers. Heavy, cold winters and blizzarding snow, and lurking enemies from all directions. Arikara, Blackfeet, Crows, Kiowas, and Shoshones, and the Pawnee from the south. But the Titangwan were familiar to warfare, and soon they had pushed all enemy tribes out of this region. They now controlled the western side of the Missouri River, all the way to the Black Hills, or Pahasapa. A new and happy life started for the people. Game was plentiful, with huge herds of buffalo that provided them with all they needed. Antelope and other game were everywhere, and within short distance from camp. But there were other newcomers in the mixed grasses too. The smelly white man, the bearded messenger bearer, the Washichu. He came from the east, where he lived in teepees on top of teepees, or so it was told. He came every spring and disappeared in the fall. Some came back year after year, and others just seemed to pass through the land. But here he was, with his strange words like,
"Damn fine, damn good, and whiskey."
The Lakota knew about the whiskey, knew too well the destructive power of the burning cup. They called it Mni Rakan, holy water, because years ago, when the black robes traveled the different Sioux camps, they baptized some of the people in wine. Therefore, it became known as Miniwaka. The burning cup had a very bad influence on the Lakota. There appeared to be no medicine strong enough to prevent the influence of it, and there was no escape from it either. The white traders followed the camps, demanding furs and hides for their burning drinks and other goods. They even traded off their mazawakan, holy iron or fire stick. But the man from the east had other needs too. They never brought their families along, their women and children, and so they put their eyes on the pretty young Lakota Wiyak.
In the last 100 years, we have high rates of alcoholism where people because of this bad things that happen to their to the people, is they would take it out, self-destruct. They would hurt each other. Eventually, many of them committed suicide, or others would learn these behaviors from the priest, or when the cavalry that came into a reservation, and they would do the same thing to our people, and then people learn that. It's a learned behavior. A lot of that's where domestic violence comes from. There's a lot of people still drink, but a majority of people now are starting to sober up. And maybe through the bringing the buffalo back here, we could relearn our culture.
One cannot sell the land on which the people walk. Crazy Horse.
The newcomers were increasing in numbers. Now there were not only traders visiting the different camps, but large columns of horses dragging wagons on wheels, men with families. They came from the east and disappeared into the west.
We were Swedish. It was trouble. The foreign countries would come in, Russia, I imagine, and take over this land, and nobody knew whose it was. And they kept fighting, and the soldiers would come in and take over your family, take over everything. They couldn't tolerate that. And so he'd gotten into a fight with the soldiers, and he happened to kill one of them. And so he jumped a ship in Belgium, went to Belgium, and then went to the United States. It wasn't nice, and everybody was ready to leave, and they did, and they all came over here. I think the government was their problem. The government, I think they instilled a lot of stuff that wasn't supposed to be, and they I don't think I could tolerate what they done to me, or if I was an Indian, I don't think I could tolerate that at all. I'd be right in a battle with them. They treated them pretty harshly. Not everybody done it though, but there was a bunch, and a bunch makes everybody look bad.
The leaders of the Lakota camps came together for council meetings. First, it seemed like these pale faces were just small islands in a big lake of Lakota, but everything changed. They had become as many as the stars in the sky. The Lakota witnessed the killing of the buffalo, their main source of meat, as well as the scaring away of other game. Troops of soldiers were building forts on hunting grounds and sacred land. Trouble has to come. The first serious clashes between the two people started when a Mormon wagon train was traveling across the plains toward Utah, just near the trading post of Laramie. A worn-out cow broke loose and ran through a combined camp of Oglala and Sichangu. The cow was shot by a visitor known as High Foretop from the Minikanju band of the Lakota. The owner of the cow became angry and demanded that the soldier arrest the killer of the cow. The Sichangu chief, Conquering Bear, tried to explain to the soldiers that the man was a visitor and that they could not arrest him, according to Lakota custom. He even offered the owner 3 good horses for the cow, but the Mormon showed little compassion and demanded that the soldiers arrest the killer. The Oglala chief, Old Man Afraid of His Horses, known for his clear mind and ability to reason with people, went several times to the soldier fort in an effort to solve the matter, but all was in vain. Soldier Chief Grattan and a company of soldiers went to the Indian camp, bringing a drunk interpreter called Wayus to solve the matter. The date was August 19th, 1854.
Lakota means just one word. A friendship, friend. Lakota, we have the Lakota language. You can say Lakota land, Lakota horse, Lakota house, Lakota anything, just the Lakota. Lakota has a language. And that's it, Lakota is. We don't have no cuss words in our language. Somebody cussed in English language. Hey, you Lakotas you're not supposed to cuss. And that's not our language. It's the English language. Lakota, we don't cuss.
After threats and yelling from the interpreter, the soldier chief gave the order to open fire. Conquering Bear was shot and badly wounded, and later died of his wound. As the soldiers fired on the camp, a massive force of warriors, led by Spotted Tail, Red Cloud, and Young Man Afraid of His Horses, swarmed the soldiers. In less than 30 minutes, all the soldiers were dead. From a little knoll overlooking the camp, 15-year-old Crazy Horse, along with friends, witnessed the battle. In this first battle with the soldiers, the Lakota wiped them all out. As a result of that, the American Army attacked the peaceful Sichongu camp of Little Thunder, killing women and children, destroying the entire camp. After years of struggle, a treaty was finally entered into at Laramie Flats. The first one was in 1866, the next was in 1868. In those treaties, the governing people tried to get the different bands of Lakota to sign away the sacred Black Hills, and at the same time give the soldiers permission to build forts through hunting grounds along the Powder River country, all the way into present-day Montana. They managed to get some of them to sign the treaty, but not the 3/4 of the Sioux Nation's male population that was required to make it legal. Forts were built anyway. The angry young Red Cloud, who struggled for recognition within the tribe, made war on the white soldiers along Thief's Road or Bozeman Trail. With him went brave men like Crazy Horse, American Horse, and Young Man Afraid of His Horses. On December 21st, 1866, Captain William Fetterman, who had boasted that he could ride through the entire Sioux Nation and defeat them with only 80 men, met his death alongside his men only a few miles from Fort Phil Kearny. This was the second time that the Lakota had won an important battle with a people that seems not to listen.
What my mother told me a lot of stories about man afraid of his horse. He's a very godly man, humble and loyalty. He's a man that never want trouble or wars among white people. He has so much love. And after he was old, getting old, he gave his chieftainship unto Red Cloud, Chief Red Cloud. And he stayed home and no longer was a chief. And my mom told me that he has 4 wives, but he always go around with 2 of them, and 2 of them stay home. When he's gone, they watch the house. And the next time he go, these 2 have to go, and the other 2 stay home next. But another story that she told me is about his vision quest. And that's his favorite place That was his favorite place that he always go is Devil Tower. And this is a sacred place. People go over there to pray long time ago because they think of that mountain as a sacred place. So he went over there because he's going to have a vision quest. And it was in summertime, maybe about late August. And they went over there, and there's a band of people that went with him. And they're all camping. And they prepare him to go up to the hill to be in a vision quest. So they made a sweat lodge, and they have sweat that evening. After that, then they took him up to the mountain, Devil Tower. By that time, after they come back, it was severe storm. Severe thunderstorm, and they struck that mountain about 4 times. That's when everybody was crying in the camp because they thought sure that he got lightning struck up there. But when that lightning, that storm passed on, they heard him singing. And everybody listened, and here he was singing. And he sang a Braveheart song for himself. And he was on top of the mountain instead of last time he was standing so far. But this time he was standing way on top of the Devil Tower. First night he had vision quest, but first night he see himself as a black mountain sheep. And then he climbed that Devil Tower like nothing. And when he got to the top, he stand up and continued his vision quest. And he continued standing the next day. The next night, he see in his vision, he seen the thunder beings coming and a man lead them. He rode a psychedelic horse all painted up and white circles around the eye. And he had a black cloth tied over his head. And he was leading the riders. And near all those riders, he lead them to the thunder beings, thunder people. And he rode that horses all psychedelic Hilka horse. And the third night, the next day, that's his last night, because the 4th day, early in the morning, they're going to bring him back to the camp. Again, he was standing up there all night, and he thought he heard something, and coming closer. And here it was a man that's crying. So he looked toward the east and hear that star coming up, the morning star. And it was glittering all colors. And here pretty soon it just turned red. And as it coming closer, it's red and blood dripping, something dripping from that morning star. And here it's a blood that is dripping. And he cried. And he said, "My people," he said, "you're going to have to face a hardship that's coming to you. There are going to be some people that claim themselves as Indian people, Lakota people, but they're going to make you cry. The greediest people, and they're going to take your land away. And a lot of you are going to shed blood." He said, so that's coming, and you're going to face it someday. A lot of you will have no land. He said.
They made us many promises, more than I can remember. They kept but one, the promise to take our land, and they took it, Red Cloud.
Nataku waji ichumpi ki he makoche ki unkipik te ichichunze pi hoyunkha ichumpelo.
Under Red Cloud, the warriors harassed the soldiers at the forts, preventing people from leaving or coming, which caused the soldiers to eventually abandon the forts. The Sioux burned them down immediately. New peace treaties were made, and Spotted Tail, with his delegation of Sichanku, along with Red Cloud, Young Man Afraid of His Horses, and their delegations, went to Washington to meet with the Great White Father. They were astounded by the big cities and the power of the whites, that they soon realized they could not defeat such a powerful and numerous enemy. We melt like the snow on the grassy slope in spring. In 1872, gold was discovered in the Black Hills, and white prospectors swarmed the hills and risked their lives to get rich. The soldiers' purpose was to keep them away, but the effort failed due to lack of will. So the war with the Sioux was still active, but now the government decided that the free living of the Plains Indian had to come to a stop. They would have to give way to modern times. Railroads crossed hunting grounds, splitting buffalo herds in two. Professional hunters also arrived on the scene, killing the animal for sport and leaving their carcasses to rot. In less than 10 years, 60 million buffalo were slaughtered. And with the major food source for the Sioux people gone, they were forced onto reservations, forced to live the white man's way.
The white people put bad medicine over Red Cloud's eyes to make him see anything and everything they please. Sitting Bull.
A resistance group consisting mostly of Oglala, under the war leader Crazy Horse, refused to live the white man's way. He and a large group of followers still roamed and hunted in the Powder River area. The soldiers tried to force them to give up their old way of living, following at their heels whenever they were able to find them.
In 1889, this area became the state of South Dakota from Dakota Territory. And concurrently at the same time, the people were being placed onto reservations. But the leadership that was for us as a people included Chief Bigfoot, Chief Sitting Bull, and some younger chiefs, including Chief Red Cloud, Man Afraid of His Horses, Young Man Afraid of His Horses, not Old Man Afraid of His Horses. But there was also younger chiefs that were just now experiencing that phase. They objected because Treaty of 1868 outlined the territory, western half of South Dakota, part of North Dakota, Wyoming, Montana, Nebraska, became part of an agreement called through the Treaty of 1868. And this land was the Great Sioux Nation, considered as the territory of the people, the federal government recognizing that. And of course, 8 years afterwards, gold was discovered at Black Hills. So the land was taken from the Lakotas in 1876.
On June 25th, 1876, the power-sick General George Armstrong Custer came upon a mixed camp of several Lakota tribes and some Arapahoes and Cheyenne. He attacked the camp. What he didn't know was that it was an enormous camp, over 3 miles long, with some 12,000 people, protected by at least 3,000 to 4,000 warriors, under the leadership of Crazy Horse and spiritual leader Sitting Bull of the Hunkpapa band of Lakota.
Sitting Bull's vision was seeing the soldiers fall head side down into camp.
The Lakota called the battle High Noon at Greasy Grass. It is better known as the Battle of Little Bighorn, or Custer's Last Stand. It was also the last stand for the free-roaming life of the last groups of resisting Lakota, who were now hunted down from all directions. Nevertheless, the Sioux Nation was the only enemy of the United States Army that had beat them, wiping them out 3 times.
And today there's a monument here that shows the cavalry people. And we were the ones that were attacked, but we don't have nothing here, nothing to show for our people. And we was in peace there. They came and they attacked us. They tried to kill us, and there's nothing to show for for what was done to us. So I really would like to have something shown here, a monument also for the natives. The reason why General Custer attacked the Sioux people here is because to claim the presidency of the United States, if he wiped out the Great Sioux Nation, then that would give him great honor. He would be able to get the medals that he deserved, but he never got to achieve that.
How mitako epi le wana ata Oglala machina let niet hoka bohine jin le hiene ke na le ochaki zabo kilicha eloha nawaji na otachike na makach ni rabchale le petukila nawaji. Oh, there was a battle here, Battle of the Little Bighorn, and the native camp was down here. The Lakota warriors are camped down here, and we was attacked by the 7th U.S. Cavalry. There was over 2,000 warriors here, and at that time the cavalries were outnumbered and they didn't realize it. By the time they realized it, it was too late. When the attack started from down here, it came up this way, and a lot of the soldiers were killed. They were running for their lives, and the altar over here on this side, and they were also running for their lives, and they got killed. There was a massacre that was done here, and the Lakota warriors were the victors here.
Sitting Bull went north to the grandmother land, Canada. He encouraged Crazy Horse to go with him, for there was no place on the plains that would be safe for him anymore. Crazy Horse said no. May 5th, 1877, Crazy Horse rode into Camp Robinson in Nebraska with his band of Hunkpatila Oglala, surrendering the free life of his grandfathers. There was no place to go. Soldiers followed them from 4 directions. There was no game to hunt. The people were starving. He became popular, and when asked where he wanted the agency for the people and himself, he simply pointed northeast. I want my land where my grandfathers lie buried. But among some other agency chiefs, jealousy was rising. With Red Cloud at the lead, they plotted against him. They reported that Crazy Horse was to kill all the soldiers at a council that was soon to be held. Crazy Horse heard rumors that he was to be arrested and fled to his uncle, the Sichangu leader, Spotted Tail, and asked to stay there. But Crazy Horse was advised to go back, that no one was going to harm him as long as he acted wisely. On his return, his old friend, Young Man Afraid of His Horses, rode up to him and told him to be careful, that he was riding into a dangerous place. Crazy Horse was arrested and taken to the soldiers' jailhouse. Seeing the bars on the window, Crazy Horse shook loose from the guards. Drawing a knife, he tried to fight his way to freedom. His former friend and warrior, Little Big Man, grabbed his arms from behind, and a soldier thrust a bayonet through his kidney from the back. Crazy Horse died in the morning of September 6, 1877. His aging parents put him to rest in the Beaver Valley area, a little north of present Hay Springs, Nebraska. The soldier that stabbed and killed the strange man of the Oglala was not convicted of his crime. He was simply removed to another fort. No questions asked.
Great Spirit, who art in heaven, the maker of sun, moon, star, earth, water, and all things thrown upon the earth and under the water, including the human on the land of the earth, bless me to gain wisdom and power to serve and defend the people of my tribe. Tashunka Witko, prayer on Beaver Creek.
My name is Olivia Black Elk Puyer. We come from the Hunkpapa clan up in north, and we are part of Crazy Horse's relatives. And then we have, but this is where we live, and there is a lot of people that are from the Hunkpapa tribe that are here on the reservation that are from Crazy Horse. And how I am related to Crazy Horse is because of my grandfather, Black Elk. He's from the Crazy Horse clan. He was a cousin, the first cousin of Crazy Horse. And so this is where they all settled here on this reservation.
I come from the Crazy Horse, Black Elk family. And on my mother's side, I come from like Chief American Horse. So I come from some real strong people.
Sitting Bull received the sad news. Another good man of the people killed over jealousy. And as always, the white man was involved. He stayed on with his Hunkpapas in Canada for some more years. Then he and his followers began to long for their relatives and their old familiar land. Sitting Bull took his tribe and migrated back to the United States, where he was promised his reservation at the banks of the Missouri, north of the Grand River, a place called Standing Rock. By late 1880, a man from the South came to visit the people of Pine Ridge, telling them he was the new Messiah, coming to give the heartbroken people new hope. His name was Wowoka. He got them to make ghost shirts and got them to dance until they were in a trance. He told them they could dance the white man away and the buffalo would return to the people. Sitting Bull took no part in the ghost dancing, but neither did he deny those people who wanted to dance to do so on tribal land. The U.S. government saw a new Indian uprising in the distance and had to stop it, but the dancing kept on going in remote places on the reservations. During an attempt to arrest Sitting Bull to have him stop the dancing, he and his son were killed by the Indian police on December 15, 1890.
In 1889, that remaining part of the land between the Cheyenne River and the White River in southwest South Dakota was taken, opened up for homestead, and the Lakota people, including the Mirihojus, were placed on reservations. The two people that the two leaders that opposed it on the northern side was Chief Bigfoot, or Sithaka, and Chief Sitting Bull of the Hunkpapa. And they became enemies of the federal government because they represented an element of resistance preventing the government from keeping everybody on a reservation. And in 1890, beginning in that winter, it became very dry, and the people were on rations, but at the same time rations were cut in half. People were starving. They planted gardens. A drought occurred, and so the crops failed. These people were hungry. Any person that's hungry or having significant problems will turn and will pray to God for help. And at the same time, the ghost dance had come into the area, was introduced. People turned to that. This became a mechanism from the federal government, say these people are beginning to cause an uprising, and so therefore force is needed to subdue these people, have them quit the ghost dance, put them on the reservations, and everything will be good for us. In December, the last month of 1890, these things came to a head. And fearing the uprising, up there on the Standing Rock Reservation, the Indian agent, through the Indian police, ordered the arrest of Sitting Bull. On December 15th, Sitting Bull village was approached by these Indian police. Sitting Bull was arrested, and in the course of attempting to take him out of the village, a fight started with his people against the Indian police. And the first act that the federal government had Indians fighting Indians through the police and the Sitting Bull band. Sitting Bull was killed. About 150 people fled that site, came to the Cheyenne River where Chief Bigfoot was, where my family was. And out of that 150, almost about half of them were talked into not coming to Pine Ridge. They had no intention of coming to Pine Ridge until they began to realize that there was going to be an attempt to either remove Chief Bigfoot physically, or possibly they may attempt to kill him. The people left the village that was on the southwest corner of the Cheyenne Reservation, and they began in a hurried movement towards Pine Ridge. And of course, on December 28th, they were caught in the ridges above Wounded Knee. They were taken down to Wounded Knee, and there the next morning, in a attempt to show them what would happen to them if they decided to break away from them while being taken to Pine Ridge, they would demonstrate that they would shoot them. According to the government, a fight occurred and a struggle for a gun happened between a medicine man and a military officer. And when that gunfire was fired, then after approximately 50 rounds, according to Colonel Forsyth, the Army returned fire to protect themselves. And they used the words, and I know it by heart because I read it, and they said they returned the fire on the Indians. But it was very difficult to differentiate between a buck and a squaw. A buck being considered as an animal, a squaw referring to a woman. In the Algonquin language, the squaw refers to female genitalia. And these were the words that were used on the people. And because of the smoke, and they all wore long hair, and they all had tunics on, they could not tell which was man or woman. They never offered an explanation for the children they shot, but they did explain that it was difficult to find out who the man or the woman was. And a fight, according to them, a fight ensued, and in 45 minutes, there were approximately 290 people that were shot, and these people were shot with carbines as well as a 6-pound mortar shell from a Hotchkiss gun, which is an early cannon prelude to some of these. I can't remember the gun now, but they're an exploding shell.
Of the 350 people in the band of Chief Bigfoot, 300 lay dead or dying in the cold December snow alongside their chief. This happened in the moon when the deer shed their horns, December 29th, 1890, only 2 weeks after the killing of Sitting Bull.
That's the official record, and 1 month after that, in the official report, they said that these people were liable for their own deaths because they were doing the ghost dance, because they refused to obey orders, and they fired the first shot. Basically, that's what the message was. My grandfather, who, as we see behind us, his house is right directly behind me. He was 14, almost 15 years old, and he also was lined up with the people in front of the soldiers. And he said he did not understand English, but an interpreter said, "We want to show you what we will do to you if you decide to run away as we go towards Pine Ridge." Having lined up a group of men, he was part of the group that was lined up. On the other side, within 3 steps away, the military officers lined up directly across from them. And he said that there was what appeared to be an officer barked a command, and when he barked this command, the soldiers that were in front, having rifles, pointed their rifles down, grabbed the chamber, and as he looked at the soldier in front of him, he saw a bullet go into that chamber. And the gun was ready to be fired, and when he saw this, the instant he rushed the soldier, and the gun was brought back up at a shooting level. He hit the soldier, he knocked him down, and right beside him he heard a command again from this officer, and when he barked this command, he said it seemed like the whole world exploded, because the soldiers that were in line began immediately to fire on them. He turned to fight, but he couldn't, because he said there was nothing but smoke. It was cold morning, and the gunfire, the smoke that came out of the guns just hung in the air. And so instantly there were over 500 rifles that were fired. And as he got up, he started to move away. And as he moved away, he felt something. He said it felt like an axe that hit him on the back leg, the calf muscle of the leg below the knee. And when that, like an axe hitting him, it knocked him off of his feet, and he knew that he had been shot. So he got up and he started to run, and he said, I may have taken maybe 5-6 steps, and again, this time they knocked me off my feet again, but this time they shot the heel of my foot off. And from there, I had to crawl. And as I crawled, I found a ravine, and I saw people that were climbing, going down into the ravine. And as I looked back towards the firing, he said, I seen men fighting without any weapons, using their fists, using whatever they could, because they had actually taken all the weapons away from them. And as he saw them fighting, one by one, they were going down, and they were not getting back up. There were many people in the ravine, of which he was a part, and he said the firing stopped, and this interpreter who spoke the language hollered out, said, we will not fire anymore. Those of you that are down here in this ravine, come back up, we will tend to your wounds and we will take you to Pine Ridge to the hospital. And many people that had not even been shot, believing what they heard, began to climb out above the ravine. And no sooner than they climbed out, they opened fire on them again. And he said, I was in a direction of about 25 men that were sitting in a circle. I was going in that direction, and there were about 4 or 5 soldiers, and then all of a sudden, many soldiers surrounded them. And he said when they opened fire, every one of these men was shot in the back of the head, and they fell down. He said, I didn't know what to do, and just then, over the ridge, there was about 4 or 5 Lakotas that lived in the area that charged down off of that hill on horseback. And he said one of them spotted me. He seen me, I start waving my hand, and he rode down into the ravine, and he caught me by the arm, and he put me on the back of the horse, and we came out of that ravine. And we came out of that ravine and didn't stop till we got to Holy Rosary Mission, which is about 5 miles away from Wounded Knee. And there he arrived almost evening. The priests there treated him for his wounds, wrapped his wounds, and they asked him to leave. So he, along with some others that were brought there, walked down this valley, and they went up to the ridges, which are about 2 miles from here. That's where they hid until the grass became green again. They came down here, met my grandmother, and this is where we've been ever since.
When news of the massacre reached Pine Ridge, a mounted group of some 400 warriors, armed with soldier carbines, went out to fight the soldiers. Once again, young man afraid of his horses, threw himself between the lines of the two people, once again managing to stop any more killing. This nobleman died on his way to visit Crow Agency in Montana, June 19, 1893.
I had a young man afraid of his horses, Oglala Sioux. I'm the great-granddaughter-in-law of young man afraid of his horses.
My name is Genevieve Chasensight. I'm from Payabia community. It's a community that was named after Old Man Afraid of Horses. My relatives are Etta Young Man. She's also related to, she's an in-law from Young Man Afraid of Horses. And her husband was an original relative from Young Man Afraid of Horses. And I would like to also mention Nellie Two Bulls. She's also related to Young Man Afraid of Horses closely. All of us that live in that community are related to him one way or another. In fact, we all are his descendants. Payabia community has an honoring for Young Man Afraid of Horses. Every year there's a powwow there at the campgrounds where Auntie Nellie Tubles is residing at her residence, and every July we have an honoring in his name. This area where I'm standing has a lot of meaning to us Lakota people due to the fact that Crazy Horse has camped here, and there has been a lot of campfire meetings that were held by the Oglala Sioux and other tribes, and it was like a meeting place. I'm really proud to be here. As a child, I was here, and I remember playing all over these trees and climbing trees, and I could feel the presence of long time ago, the spirits and the people that used to roam around this area.
With heart on the ground, the Lakota were put onto reservations all over South Dakota. The people were forced to begin a new life. These were truly sad times for the spirit people of a great nation. White schools were built, children were taken from their parents and put into new and strange clothes. They were forbidden to speak their mother tongue. They were even forced to cut off their pride, the long black hair. Not to mention the many other forms of abuse by teachers and priests in the schools. The last of their trusted and famous leaders, Red Cloud, nearly blind, died of old age on December 10th, 1909, on the Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota. Now they were all gone.
Right now, what I want to do is use this eagle whistle and do a song and a prayer with it, and just really let you see how we do some of our prayers here at Bear Butte. And this is an eagle whistle, and we use it to call out to reach the spirits. You know, when you call upon the spirits, it's a sacred. It's a real sacred thing, and sometimes it's powerful, and it's really hard to explain. You know, the connection from me to the spiritual side, and I've been doing it for years, so I know how to really make that connection. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a 4-direction prayer, and right now the sun is facing west, and I want to face west and just do a prayer that way, and just continue my circle with my prayer. Just put all my trust in the higher power, and to guide my path. All these things that happen are for a reason, and I just want to perform it here so you could see it. Otugashila atoa kantranka. Le mecha kewa hineji lechta duki. Naha. Le hoyachi chingtawana. Le takuka lechta duki ata takik. Akib khana otachik ni aichbuchicha lechta duki atoa kantranka. Le mecha hineji no takuka lechi chachtatiki. Lechi kya. Let dag makakis en dag meelwakis in ne you aichbuchicha. Na le oma shikinata. Kilia noji. Na le chaya. Le wachima cha. Echulech tatiki wahineji. Lea keate. Chaku mechare ke ungnama wanina otechike. Na oyatiki wachimam. Wachimam chan tagi chamuk dik swash. Na hina nako aichbitche lechtatiki. Aha. Omokaya job. Otechike. Na wakaja met gaan inana relatives met haar. Hina iuha. Omokia pa ate. La call watch and low technica. And not chicha. Hola. Chantemit haki womankina. Dag chicha na is dagi pach wieluk chachi na amichik tijina ha.
Oma kia yo le, ake. Dag le wa chasha numbo ba hineji. Na. Oma kia. Na makujini. Dag aki praini hat lechta tu ki eich biche. Na le. Lena kum makoke. Makoche kila, ia kila. Oma kan nawaji tela. Lala kan nawaji ki suta ma eko ta kuka. Answer chigo chichuya. Na Dag wa chingi wa yachi tukta. Lechta tuki chala ke hoyachi chala. Meglust anishin. Ha, hechi tu. Tak yase.
With over 500 tribes, between 9 and 13 different cultural areas, depending on whom one listens to. There is no one Indian belief. Each of the tribes have their own culture, their own belief system. There is no one Indian belief, one Indian religion. Some of the tribes, such as the Lakota, would have two and three religions, which is not bad, because if the whiter men have over 300 different Christian religions, plus Jewish, plus Buddhism, plus Zen, plus this and that, and there's nothing wrong. So
last summer, after 5 years of negotiating and also working with the courts and also a museum in Massachusetts, we were able to bring a hairlock belonging to Chief Bigfoot that was there at that library museum for many, many years. And we brought it back to this site here, and right in the center of this circle here is where we did the ceremony keeping and releasing of the spirit. Here was something that was a physical part of what happened at Wounded Knee, and it was also a physical part of our bloodline, our ancestry. So it could have taken place the day before. Wounded Knee Massacre could have taken place the day before in the way we felt. It was a good feeling, it was a sad feeling, so many mixed emotions, but we've all, essentially dealt with this. It's something that not too many people, but yet people still experience that, and that is having to be part of something like what happened at Wounded Knee. It's sort of like, let's say somebody would come to your house and they'd come in with guns and they kill your wife, your children, and they didn't kill you. They might have shot you, but they wounded you, and they left. And they wrote in the papers, they said, these people that we killed, they're responsible for their own death.
Just an unbelievable country. This is all volcanic ash, all this white stuff, and it somehow buried all the turtles and the different variety of animals. There was more the Titanothere and some mammoths, which they've found down about 40 miles from here. And they were just fascinating. This turtle up here is washed out, but half of him is still there. He's washed out right in here, and it starts to run down the hill, and that'll be the end of that turtle. It's fascinating to see some life 150 million years old. Wow.
It's just like another world.
It is another world.
South Dakota today has a population of about 750,000 people, most of which are white. The city of Pierre is the state's capital. In the Black Hills, several small towns cling to the sacred hillsides, with Rapid City as the center for them all. Around 55,000 people, both white and Indian, reside here. The whites are running as good as all the businesses, and most natives work for low wages.
I'm here in the Hotel Alex Johnson in Rapid City. It's a historic hotel, and we've been here for 73 years. It was built by Alex Johnson, who is of Scandinavian heritage. He was a railroader from Chicago that traveled this area from Chicago to Denver, I believe. And he became very interested in the Lakota people that lived in this region. And when he retired at age 65, he decided to build a shrine of democracy for the Indian people. And so this is the hotel. And there are many original artifacts in the lobby that show the interest in the Native American people. The chandelier, for example, is made out of war lances, and the ceiling is hand painted by a Native American who did a beadwork design. And on the mantle behind me, the fireplace mantle, there's a picture of Alex Johnson in an Indian robe. He became a blood brother to the Sioux Indians, and he became known as, I think, Red Star was his blood brother's name. And we feel very proud of the hotel with its Native American heritage. I feel that a lot of the Native Americans here in our area enjoy coming here and feel like a little bit of pride too, knowing that there has been something built that has like the buffalo robes on the wall and the Indian heads carved up on the ceiling.
I buy Native American products, and I tell stories about the Lakota beliefs and cultures to the tourists and the people that live locally in Rapid City. Anyone that comes in the store usually gets a pretty good array of information about the area and about the Lakota culture. We have tourists in and out of the Black Hills all year long, and many conventions here. So it gives an opportunity for the craftspeople and the artists of the Sioux Nation to have a place that is continuously selling their products. And then I like to tell the way the products work into the culture, and so I do a lot of teaching along with showing products.
I have a little shop here, and I've had it now for about 8 years. And then I went into business with quilting, and so I do quilts and stark blankets and all that, and I service the people that way. I do their quilts, you know, like having giveaways and memorials and all that. And so I'm pretty much busy person.
In October of this year, we're gonna run our. I need to round up buffalo, so I'm gonna try. I need to bring them into here, holding pen, and then I need to put some more work onto this. But we're gonna need to sort them. We need to vaccinate them. We gotta ear tag them, and then I need to sort the ones that I need to take to sale and the ones I'm gonna keep. And I think I might eat one. So I'm just going to raise them until I have enough to start, tell there's a bigger market for it. So that's how that's going to work. Eventually I'd like to have, I want to, at least every year, but I like to start raising, using the meat for our people, my people, and then using hides for, all the byproducts. The brains for hides, the horns for whatever needs to be said and done, and bones for whatever. There's a whole list of stuff that our people use for him on him. So we're gonna do it for ourselves, and then we're gonna teach ourselves how to do these things again. And if you see it on Lakota, Okiecha, Okiwashtokta. This is only going to benefit for us because we need to learn what the buffalo offered for us many years ago, and then we're going to try to use them back again. We're learning how to be entrepreneurs, small business owners, stuff like that.
Welcome. I am Brother Simon. I am a Jesuit brother. I am at the Holy Rosary Mission Red Deer Cloud Indian School at Pine Ridge, South Dakota. The Jesuits have been here teaching at the Holy Rosary Mission Red Deer Cloud Indian School since 1888. We are one of these field Catholic Indian schools left in the area. We have not been turned over to the tribe or to the BIA like several of the other Catholic schools were. What is the function of this place? What does a school normally do? As the school normally educates, and as the Heritage Center, as a part of the school, and as a variation of a museum, also educates, because museums not only collect, preserve, exhibit art and their artifacts, we also educate people. We are a very versatile school. We have almost 600 children from ages 4 to the 18, Montessori, from grades Montessori preschool to the high school. We also have the 18 parishes here on the reservation, and the Heritage Center, which is a museum for the Indian fine arts and the Lakota culture.
The Oglala Lakota College was established in 1969. They had started a program called New Careers, and it could go back a few years before that, 1967 or when it was the mid-60s or late 60s when a New Careers program was started, and that's when people had started to, bring education or bring courses to this reservation. By 1971, they had established a community college, and credit was coming from the Black Hills State University, or Black Hills State College at the time. It's now Black Hills State University. And it went through several name changes. It was Oglala Sioux Community College, Lakota Higher Education Center during the New Careers period, up to about 1971. By 1983, it became Oglala Sioux Community College. By 1980, I don't have the exact dates memorized. It became Oglala Lakota College went through several name changes. When it was established, I think, the feeling was that we would have control over our education now. We would be training our teachers, we would be offering education for the local people, and that we would be in charge of what our children were learning. Throughout history, we've never really had any direction with what type of education our children were provided for. We can go back to maybe the 1700s previous to contact with the white man, and maybe it goes back to the 1600s because there were some early travelers from about the 1600s up to present day who basically made contact with the Plains tribes out here and had influenced their lives. And then eventually by 1882 we had the Carlisle Indian School open up, and most of the chiefs' children were sent there. Red Cloud's children, I don't think any of Red Cloud's children went to Carlisle. All of the chiefs for the Oglala tribe had sent their children there. For the Rosebud tribe, it was most of the headmen who had sent their children to Carlisle to be educated. Within the same year, we saw other schools open up. The Bureau of Indian Affairs, the government boarding schools opened. The Jesuit schools, like Holy Rosary Mission, opened by 1888. A lot of these schools required the Native people to be there, and that's throughout the country. There were people that had, I guess, no choice in saying, I don't want my children to go to school there. By the 1900s, they started the day schools, and you can see that system on the old bureau maps, where we have day schools numbered throughout this reservation. I think that when those day schools opened up, we have a whole set of pictures in the archive display room where people are shown tending to livestock. They're tending to gardens. They're planting gardens. They're doing some domestic work. There's a sewing club. They're still tanning hides and beading. Those are some of the activities going on in the day schools in the 1900s. We have Lakota Studies Department. We have a Lakota language certificate. We have a graduate program called Lakota Leadership and Management. It's a master's degree program.
Recently, I returned to Pine Ridge Reservation, and I started teaching at the Oglala Lakota College in '98. And then since then, I've been working with the archives, and I'm putting together a lot of other documents for other books. Our children need to know their own history. Just like this morning, we had over 30 students, 7th and 8th grade from Rocky Ford School. And so I gave them a presentation about Wounded Knee 1890 and Wounded Knee 1973. And then I showed them pictures and things like that. Now you can put all of this on the internet, and children are all using the internet now, so they can they don't have to travel all over the country like I had to when I was looking for documents and things like that. They can just take all that off the internet. And it's so much easier for them now. And even pictures and all of that's slowly getting put onto the internet.
Jasmine's been hoop dancing for probably, I think, 6-7 years now. She has been traveling all over the country. She usually speaks to students in the schools on behalf of the drug and alcohol abuse in the younger, at her age, people at her age. And dancing is a very, very important part of our culture that a lot of people have kept going in their traditionally in their families, throughout all Indian reservations, all the Indian cultures.
There. On that, yeah-ooh. We keep on mixing up on that one. Yeah-ooh. Like that. Every time when we grow up, Wade said that we have to teach our kids or some other kids in the school how to sing Indian. He said why? Because he said because we have to so we can be more Indianful, Indian powerful.
The area today is a giant tourist machine, with all kinds of attractions throughout the hills, such as Mount Rushmore and Crazy Horse Mountain, which overlook the sacred hills and the surrounding plains. But the spirit people still cling to their ancient ceremonies, and on Bear Butte and other sacred places, they still perform their vision quests, and sweat lodges are even found within the city. And up on the Cheyenne River Sioux Reservation, the sacred red stone pipe, given to the people by the white buffalo calf woman, is still in the care of the Looking Horse family, and has been for more than 19 generations.
The pipe was brought to us through a woman, and it was a spirit lady, and her name is the White Buffalo Calf Woman. Our culture before didn't have no religion, we didn't have no direction. We had our own government and everything, but we never really had that communication with the higher power. And through this way, the White Buffalo Calf Woman bringing a pipe, it gave us a sense of hope and direction and new way of life and coming together as one. So in our Lakota, we're out there, we're one. We're not. It can't be just me. It has to be the whole, everybody, the universe. And we look at it as in a big circle. Everything that we do in our culture is based on 7 and 4, number 7 and number 4, like the 7th generation, and every 7 years, the 7 council fires, and the 4 directions of life. And the purpose of Orville's family keeping a pipe was that family was chosen. They had it for 19 generations, and today he's the keeper of the sacred bundle. And June 2nd, they're having they're getting the pipe ready for the sacred Buffalo Calf Woman. that pipe that was brought to the native culture, to the people, that pipe is going to be pulled out and out of the bundle, and they're going to recreate it, and they're going to, fix it up, and then they're going to close it. So during that time, I'm going to finish this, I'm going to be there, and this is going to be part of that. And I really feel blessed and honored to be able to be part of that. And also I'm going to be singing over there too during that time.
Not many people have seen that pipe. I know that Lano Crodog, he went up there on the ceremony and they unwrapped the pipe.
Yeah.
That's probably 20 years ago.
Yeah, every 7 years they pull a pipe out, they unwrap it, and they fix it up, and they do whatever they need to do with it.
To keep it healthy.
Yeah, to keep it healthy.
Yeah.
Surrounded by strangers, tourists from all over the world, the Lakota continue to work for the benefit of their people. Some work with their history at schools that bear the names of famous leaders long gone, Red Cloud, Little Wound, and Crazy Horse. And in remote places on the reservations, they hold their powwows, singing and dancing in their most colorful costumes, keeping the old ceremonial ways alive every weekend, all summer long.